Hi, I'm pro saxophonist Jamie Anderson. You're watching Get Your Sax Together, and on today's show, I'm going to answer the most popular question that I ever get, which is, what's your sax? Or even more so, what's your mouthpiece? I'm going to give you details of all my setups, so you never need to ask again. Just before we get stuck in, make sure you check out my free 1-hour saxophone success masterclass, which is an hour of solid, zero fluff teaching with me that you can get absolutely free, covering all sorts of topics from embouchure, improvising, setup, and loads of other great tips for practicing and technique. So go and check out that lesson. And in the meantime, let's crack on and I'll tell you all about my setups. So let's start with my trusty tenor sax. I'm really a tenor player at heart, and my number one instrument is my Selmer Mark VI tenor, which you're looking at right now. The serial number is 227,000 XXX. I don't know why everybody puts the XXX at the end like it's some big secret what the serial number of your sax is, but let's just say only a few numbers over 227,000, which puts it in the 1974 production year, according to the websites. Now, this is the same year that they changed over to Mark VII saxes, but this is definitely a Mark VI because it's stamped on a Mark VI and it's also a Mark VI serial number. However, it was one of the last 4,000 Mark VIs ever made. So there's a little fun fact for you. As far as I know, it's got the original neck, and I haven't made any serious adjustments apart from putting some cork on the F key, the F palm key. That's about the only alteration I've done. So I find it a very free blowing horn. The air goes straight through it without much resistance. And it's got quite a nice bright tone to it. So I do like my Mark VI. However, I have played other Mark VIs that I much prefer, truth be told. Maybe it's just the grass is greener. But I'm happy with my horn. I've had it since I was about, I want to say 17 or maybe 18. So I've had it my whole life. So I really know this horn inside out. And that's one of the key things. It's not necessarily the horn you've got. It's how well you know your horn and how well you know how in tune each different note is, which is actually really important. So that's my saxophone. My tenor sax is Selmer Mark VI. And now let's check out my mouthpiece. So this is my mouthpiece. This is a vintage Autolink Tone Master, and the stamp on it actually says, I believe, 8.8. However, I'm pretty sure it's had some work on it because I can see that there's some, marks inside of it. And to me, it's more like an 8-star or even a 9, the way I measured it. So it's definitely had some work done. I'd say it's certainly been refaced at some point because I can see the marks there on the table of the mouthpiece. This is what they call a Florida model, a Florida USA model. And it's called USA because it says USA there on the shank of the mouthpiece. And it's the Florida models are a little bit brighter, I believe, than some of the other Autolink models. So Autolink Tone Master, I would say it's more like an 8-star or a 9, to be honest. That is my go-to mouthpiece. It's not only my go-to mouthpiece, it's my only mouthpiece. Now, the ligature I've got on that mouthpiece is a Rovna Versa, which is a kind of a mixture between a cloth one and a metal one. At the moment, I don't have the metal plate in the middle bit. I've got it open. I probably should tinker around with it, but to be honest with you, I've got better things to do. So that's my ligature. And last but not least, for the tenor, I use Van Doren Java red box reeds, usually 3.5. Although sometimes I use 3s, so it's a mixture of 3s and 3.5s. 3's easier to play and you get the slightly richer sound, so maybe I'll use that if I'm in the studio or if I have to play something quite quiet. But if I'm out on a gig and I know I'm going to be blowing full bore, I feel like I need the 3.5 to give me the resistance I need. Otherwise the reed chokes up and I don't find I've got enough power in the palm keys and altissimo. So that concludes my tenor setup. Let's move on to alto. Okay, moving on to my alto then. My alto is also Selmer Mark 6, Selmer Paris Mark 6. Serial number on this one is 124,000, which makes it 1965. Incidentally, I forgot to say that my tenor was manufactured in the same year that I was born, which is quite a cool little coincidence there. So yeah, same alto as I've got a tenor, a little bit earlier. It's not one of the famous, 5-digit ones, which are supposed to be better. I've never had like the ultimate Mark 6 with alto or tenor, unfortunately, but maybe one of these days I will. It's got some nice engraving on it, which says New York, Elkhart, and London. Whether it's assembled in America or London, I don't know, because I'm not enough of a geek. It's got the nice metal thumb, right-hand thumb rest, which sounds like it might not be comfy, but because it's at a nice angle, it's actually really comfy. So that's it, Selmer Mark 6 Alto. Let's move on to my mouthpiece now. This is my main alto mouthpiece, which is a Jody Jazz HR8M, which I use for virtually everything, but we'll come on to that just shortly. I like having mouthpieces with open tip openings so I can really blow hard and they're not going to close up on me because I put a lot of air through the instrument. So I normally go for at least an 8 tip opening, which is quite wide and probably too much, certainly for beginners, intermediates maybe a bit, and it's also not to everybody's taste as well, but I really tank it. So I love my Jody Jazz AM. I didn't get a metal mouthpiece in alto because alto is a little bit bright already, so I thought I'd go for an ebonite mouthpiece and try and keep that sound a little bit more mellow. I've also got a Sios mouthpiece which Pauline sent me, which is a much brighter mouthpiece. Now, I would only really use this for something that's quite poppy. I used it recently for a gig I had with a DJ where I needed some real cut to get across the PA and the singers. So I've got this Sios. I can't tell you the exact specification of it. Not because I'm not allowed to, but just I don't know. Pauline didn't tell me. She just sent me it and said how you get on. But it has got quite the baffle on it, so it's quite bright. But, the cool thing about these Sios is, you can put your logo on the side, so it's got to get your sax together on the side, which is pretty cool. So that's my second alto mouthpiece. I should also mention that I'm experimenting with one of Jay's burn-in alto mouthpieces at the moment, but more on that on a later video. So ligature-wise on alto, I use this Van Doren MO, simple bracelet metal ligature, which I find works really well. I like the single screw. I like the fact that it's got the little niche in it for the reed to go in. I find that's pretty cool, and it just works really well. That works on the Jody Jazz, and it also works on the Sios. So I'm sure it works on it's going to work on the burn-in as well. So good all-round multi-purpose, simple ligature Van Doren MO. And last but not least, the reeds on alto are exactly the same for tenor, which is Van Doren Java Redbox 3.5 or sometimes 3, depending on the playing situation. Exactly the same as tenor. However, I do also sometimes play a Ligature signature. I'm experimenting with Ligature signature and Ligature American cut at the moment, but I don't have any reeds sent from Ligature. But if you're watching and you're from Ligature and you'd like to send me some reeds to experiment with and review in the channel, then yes, I'd be more than happy to do that because I'm very interested in your products. Okay, moving on to soprano. I play a Carlworth soprano, and this model is the SX90. I love it because it feels so chunky, just that reliable German engineering. It feels like a tenor under your fingers. You get 2 different necks with this soprano, and I prefer to play the slightly curved neck. That's my preference. I never really use the straight neck. The pearls are really big and chunky. You got these beautiful adjustable palm keys. All 3 of them are completely adjustable, up and down, side to side. I love that. And it's got a really beautiful, wide, thick sound. So that's the soprano that I play. Serial number is 104,000, and I love it. Onto my soprano mouthpiece now. And what I really need here is some ultra mouthpiece geek to help me out, because I've been looking on different forums and different mouthpiece charts to try and find out exactly what this mouthpiece is. It's definitely a Selmer mouthpiece. It's got the scroll shank on it, but the facing, which is C double star, is stamped horizontally along in an oval on the table of the mouthpiece. Now, my best guess is that this is a 1940s Selmer Airflow mouthpiece, but I'm hoping that some ultra geek will be able to tell me exactly what it is. It's got a round chamber inside and no baffle, no rollover, nothing like that, which makes it quite an unusual mouthpiece for me to play because all my other mouthpieces are wide tip opening. However, on soprano, I've got this, I think it must be vintage Selmer mouthpiece, which I really like. Don't know why, but I just love it. So if anyone can tell me exactly what it is, please do comment below. At the moment, I'm using a simple Rovner band ligature on this mouthpiece, although thinking about it now, I should probably get myself a nice Van Doren MO soprano. That's what I prefer. Some of these things I just never get around to. I'm too busy making content and doing gigs to get all the stuff that I should. Right, let's move on to reeds now. Now, usually I use the same reeds as I do on alto and tenor, which is a Van Doren Java red box 3s or 3.5s. But more recently, I've been using a Ligature 3 1/4 synthetic reed, which I find works quite nicely for me on soprano. Now, finally, baritone. Full disclosure, I can't be asked getting my baritone out because it's literally buried under God knows how much stuff over there, which doesn't make it very practical. But I've got a very simple Yamaha 32 baritone. I've got two different mouthpieces on baritone. One is for the real like chainsaw pop roaring baritone stuff, and that's a Jody Jazz DV8. And for more controlled stuff like West End pit work, or something where I need a little bit more control and the low notes are just going to pop out a bit easier, I've got a Yanagisawa, and it is, what is it? YBS 7R, so that's a 7 opening on that one. I can't remember my ligatures, probably Rovners or something like that, but simple ligatures to go with the baritone. So that's it for this week. Hopefully I've answered that most pressing of questions which you always have, which is what sax are you playing, what mouthpiece are you playing, etc, etc. Now, just before I sign off, I will tell you that mostly it doesn't matter that much. It's not the mouthpiece and the sax that gives me the sound or gives you your sound. It's you that gives you your sound, and it's me that gives me my sound. So just bear that in mind when you're getting too obsessed about mouthpieces and saxes and thinking it's going to make a big difference. You're actually better spending your money on total tone mastery than you are on a new sax, in my opinion. Anyway, just before you go, if you bought me a coffee, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And if you feel like you're getting any kind of good value from these videos, just click the link there to buy me a little coffee. A little caffeine goes a long way in making these YouTube videos. As always, don't forget to check out my free 1-hour saxophone success masterclass using the link you can see there. And until next week, practice hard, practice smart, and enjoy your music. See you later. I've got two different... I've got two different mouthpieces. I knew you were going to do that.